Did Apple just hire this guy again?
Traditionally, notebooks are made from multiple parts. But the problem is when you have multiple parts, you add size and weight. And the huge breakthrough that we figured out a way of being able to make the notebook fundamentally thinner, lighter, more robust, was to replace all of those parts with just one part.
That we ended up having some major issues in the real world, and I'm talking specifically about that 12-inch Retina MacBook, which I actually really liked, but coming with a single port to charge and to have data transfer and connectivity, coming with those butterfly keys that kept breaking, and then all the overheating we got with an Intel chip that didn't have a fan in order to make it silent and so thin and light. Well, that machine is not being made anymore. And now we have reports that Apple is going to continue on the trend of making a lot of devices thinner and lighter. Now, of course, we have the M4 iPad, specifically the 13-inch model, which is insanely thin, very lightweight. They succeeded with this device, and I have to say, I love it. But unlike the iPad, which in my opinion, it makes sense for it to be very thin and light, because with the large screen, you can now easily use it one hand for a very long time. When we're talking about MacBooks, well, things can be a little bit different. Mark Gurman over the weekend reported that with the start of this new iPad Pro, it starts the beginning of a new class of Apple devices. And he said that Apple's aim is to offer the thinnest and lightest products in their categories across the whole tech industry. Now, we already had reports of the iPhone 17 series having an ultra thin design, and that is cool, just like the iPad, as long as the battery life doesn't get much worse, because that matters a lot. And then with the Apple Watch, with that redesign, with Apple Watch X coming out, it could also get thinner. I feel like it's pretty thin with the regular ones already, but with the new design, that could be pretty cool. But for the MacBook Pro, that is where I am conflicted. And I'll explain what they're gonna do, how they can actually make it better without sacrificing some battery life and some issues that we might have. But I wanna mention with the MacBook Airs, those got really thin, and I actually would love for them to make it even thinner, just like that Retina MacBook. That thing only weighed 2 pounds. It was incredibly small and very, very thin, and it was a great machine. And if they brought that back, but they had the keys be the regular ones, not the butterfly keys, and they had MagSafe charging in addition to one USB Type-C port, and then with their Apple Silicon in there, that would be a sweet machine. And then MacBook Air, because of the new M4 chips with better efficiency, 3 nanometer, they could make that thinner while maintaining battery life. And for a device that people use every day, day to day, for web browsing, emails, watching videos, I think that would be killer to have something even thinner. Now, with the MacBook Pros, this is where you get into a different category, because if you guys remember this machine right here, this is my Intel MacBook Pro. When they released this, that's when they got rid of the original MagSafe or MagSafe 2 charging. They got rid of the SD card reader. They got rid of the HDMI port. They switched all to USB Type-C. They made it thinner, they made it lighter, but it came with compromises. And when they came out with the new 16-inch, they made it thicker, they made it heavier, but they were able to put back in, we got MagSafe, we got the HDMI, we got the SD card slot. And one thing that they said when they released it is because of the thicker design and the fact that it's more boxy, they got better cooling built into it at the same time. Even though we have Apple Silicon, the cooling got better. They were talking about that. Now, if they're gonna go back to something that's thinner, that's lighter, that could compromise it. Now, yes, the M4 chips with second generation 3nm design does improve efficiency over the previous MacBooks, but I have to point out a couple things if you guys do not remember. With the original M1 Max and Pro machines, with the 14-inch, that would thermal throttle quite a bit compared to the 16-inch with the M1 Max, making it not very good if you want something that's more portable. And then with the M2 Max, it got even worse, and with M3 Max, even though it's 3nm, it is actually worse because they add in more cores, which means more heat. And for the 14-inch model, well, that suffered a lot more. But even with the 16-inch model, this machine, every generation that they improved the processors, well, it actually used more power, both on the CPU and on the GPU. And then looking at thermals, well, the system would heat up faster than the previous generation because it is getting hotter, even though the chips are technically better. So if Apple goes and does make something thinner and lighter, and they talked about not compromising battery efficiency, well, what about cooling performance? Because as other computers are getting better, we have powerful graphics, Apple does need to keep up, which they're beefing it up. We're doing more with these computers. So on the battery front, well, they definitely could still do a good job, at least for basic tasks. And one way that they're gonna do this is the new tandem OLED displays, for example, on the new iPads. There's some testing by GeekerOne which showed that the tandem OLED 13-inch actually got 95% better battery life in their test running simple 4K video playback compared to the previous version that had the mini LED because of efficiency. It really sips power if you're not maxing out the screen. And so that's one way that they are able to upgrade the MacBooks, which would allow it to, one, be thinner at the top here where the screen is because it doesn't need to be as thick, and then two, save on battery life. And then so with that, the numbers could stay the same as far as what they rate for simple web browsing. But then with that, if you're doing heavy tasks like video editing, photo editing, anything that really pushes the system, well then the screen isn't that big of an impact compared to the whole laptop as far as how much that CPU and GPU is going to use. So if they put in smaller batteries, well, in real world workloads, if you're pushing the machine, the battery life will actually get worse. And with a Pro machine like the MacBook Pro, I don't know about you guys, but I think a lot of Pro users would rather have it be thicker, heavier, as long as it stays quiet, it stays cool, the performance stays good, and we don't miss out on any ports like Johnny Ive was known to do, just trying to get rid of as much as he possibly can. Now, on other machines, I think it makes sense for simple web browsing machines that are less expensive, but on the Pro ones, that's where I'm kind of a little bit worried about Apple trying to go back to that mentality of making stuff as thin and lightweight as possible. If you're a Pro user, I think we're okay with something heavier as long as you're getting your full performance, you're getting good battery life, you're getting the ports. But on a very simple machine, well, those users might want something thin and lightweight. Even for myself, I really like the new MacBooks, the MacBook Airs, the 15-inch MacBook Air, because when you don't need all that performance, you don't have to really worry about that. And the battery life of those machines, they are excellent because you're doing simple tasks. So you guys let me know your thoughts. Are you okay with Apple switching their direction? You know, they went from thicker machines to thin and light, and then when they switched to this, people rejoiced, and now going back the other way. You guys let me know down in the comment section below. Go ahead and click that circle above to subscribe. Check out one of those videos right over there. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next one.